Everyone, come in. Welcome, 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 welcome. This could be quick. This could be long. I don't know. What it was beautiful. Florida State takes care of business against famed football powerhouse East Texas A&M by a jaw-dropping score of 77-3. And I think the question on everybody's mind before this game, I knew it was going to be a victory, right? But would Florida State, like they have done in the past sometimes when playing this level of competition with Mike Norvell, would Florida State play with their food? Well, today East Texas A&M was a plate of Nathan's hot dogs, and Florida State was Joey Chestnut, because it was the exact opposite of that, with a passion. In fact, I think Florida State for the first time in a long time, actually scored more points on the football field than Joey Chestnut ate hot dogs in Coney Island in the same year. Unbelievable. Everybody scored. Everybody played. They played like 4 quarterbacks, guys that I had no idea existed on the roster. Shout out Michael Grant. What's up, my dude? Like 7, 8 running backs. They had the starters in. I mean, they had the starters out by the second quarter. They had the walk-ons in, I think, some before the first half. And then they had, AJ Cottrell and Donnie Hebert were like making plays on the field in like the second quarter. Quinn Suorcha, like the demons, they were on the field. It was just wonderful, dude. It was wonderful. The stats are gaudy. 729 total yards. Florida State's first 10 drives ended in touchdowns. 368 on the ground, 361 through the air. Duce Robinson, my God, nearly had 200 yards receiving in the first quarter. The defense, while not like totally overdoing it with the starters and the ones rotations, Tony White let everybody play, and they pitched a shutout until the very, very end. They played with intense effort, intense focus. There were not very many. I could maybe count on like 1 or 2 fingers of like kind of those like penalties. They came in after an extremely emotional victory against Alabama, and man, they took care of business. And that is something, if your college football team can do week in to week out to maintain the focus of that group of 18 to 22-year-old kids, that is not an easy task. And my God, man, they had an edge. They had attitude, Kev, and they were there. They were there for blood. They wanted it in blood, and they got it. What did you think of this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to discount this, right? So East Texas A&M, who are they? Blah blah blah. They, East Texas A&M put up a decent fight against SMU last week. I mean, got housed by the end of the game, but was in it, kind of showed some life. And Florida State's coming off a big win, so there's a thought that there might be a letdown. There's a thought that this game might start off slowly. And that first drive, you saw kind of glimpses of like, okay, well, a targeting extended the drive. Then there was they had a 4th down. They had to convert on the goal line to get a touchdown. But then after that, the offense just started churning. I mean, the first player I've got to shout out is Duce. I mean, the dude went off. Duce Robinson looked every bit like you want him to look. I said it before the season. If you can get one of your receivers to consistently win those deep balls, if you can hit 2 or 3 of those deep balls a game, you can basically name the number you want with Gus Malzahn's offense, especially with someone like Tommy Castellanos as a run-threading as a quarterback. So seeing him kind of come alive, seeing him make some kind of tougher catches, seeing him being able to break free deep, no matter who the defense is a very encouraging sign for this offense going forward, because you need to hit one of those when you're playing in Miami, when you're playing a Florida, when you're playing a Clemson. If Duce Robinson can catch 1 or 2 of those, it really changes the dynamic of the offense. You force the defense to respect the deep ball, because you can't just give up a touchdown on every drive. So Duce Robinson coming alive, that was a big takeaway for me, because that will be the difference between this offense being a top 25 offense by the end of the year and this being a top 10 or even a top 5 offense by the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, 700 yards, score a touchdown basically at will until you have a walk-on at quarterback. The offense looked clean. It looked great. You were getting great push along the offensive line. You're getting all day to throw the football. You were making catches that haven't been made in a while. Castellanos was looking good throwing the ball. He looked comfortable. I think you were able to see it was a good day for Usman Chroma.
Good bounce back starting in the second half. I thought he looked more comfortable, right?
Right. Early on, he was dancing a little bit. You could tell that he was trying to do a lot. He wanted to score a touchdown on every time he touched the ball. It seemed like he was not hitting a hole when it was there. He was kind of, he was dancing. He was going side to side. And by the second half, you could tell he settled in a little bit. He was a little bit more comfortable just being a north-south runner, making his one cut. Still, you want him to be able to dance a little bit. That's kind of what makes him special. But you get him a touchdown on a passing play. You get to see kind of his hands, and he's someone that you want to invest in for the future. He's an extremely talented kid, and it's really good to see him get some touches, get some confidence, and kind of move forward with that.
Absolutely. Totally agree. The thing that stood out to me with Duce Robinson, the fluidity of the routes, the athleticism, the way that he moves, the body control, that is nice. And it helps when you have like a downfield pass or a deep ball passer like Tommy Castellanos, who over his career prior to this year at Florida State has been kind of hit or miss. He's been mostly hit this year. In fact, all those long pass plays to Duce, they were on the money. He put them right where he needed to. One underthrown deep ball to Squirrel White. But once again, if you're hitting like 66, 70% of your deep balls, dude, you score 80 points in the Gus Malzahn offense. Castellanos had a really nice day, particularly that first throw to Duce with pressure in his face, absorbing the hit. Kid's a dog. Duce looks great. Like you said with Usman, he looked little tentative at first, but once again, like you said, the agility, the ability to make people miss is what makes him special. You don't want to work that out of his game, but he looked a lot more comfortable in the second half, and he had 5 for 37 on the ground, and then a 43-yard touchdown, showcasing those hands throughout the passing game. A lot of guys got their first touchdown in this game. The one that really stood out to me, man, which it showed how bought in this team was, is Javon Boggs, my guy from Brevard County, on that fourth down pass to Gavin Sawchuk, who had himself a game too, man. Just such a hard runner. What a great pickup. He is such a steadying force when you need that fourth down conversion, when you need that tough run. He excels a lot in this inside zone offense. He just hits the hole with such authority, but he had that big, long 53-yard touchdown. Javon Boggs, they're up 4 touchdowns at the time. And he is blocking his ass off down the field. He just great, dude. And then you know what? You reward him later with that pass from, I think Kevin Sperry hit him in the end zone. You get him a touchdown too. They're playing like crazy. All of it, man. All of it was extremely impressive. And I guess let's go back to, because there's so much to talk about when you have 10,000 yards of offense. Let's go back to the check marks that we wanted Florida State to have going into this game, right, Kev? The first thing is we wanted them to take this game seriously, do what you needed to do, get the guys that aren't going to get a lot of time to play reps in case of injury, and get a lot of rotation in. Check with abandonment. I think he came out of this game relatively clean. James Williams looked a little dinged up. Not sure what his status is going to be. It was reported that Squirrel White was in a wrist brace after on the sideline. Check for Knowles247.com to kind of see what the extent of that was. I couldn't tell. I didn't get to rewind, but you could tell as soon as he got hit on the punt return, he was taking his glove off. Something to monitor. He's a very important part of the vertical element of this offense, stretching out the defense to open up the run game. So that's something to keep an eye on. Luckily, you get a bye week, Kent State, which is another bye week, and then Virginia on a Friday, which may be a tougher game than we thought. So monitor that. But he came out of this game relatively healthy. So first one was check. The second thing we wanted to see, the development of the passing game. Dude, check. They did, once again, not by doing a whole bunch of crazy exotic stuff that you're going to show Virginia, you're going to show Miami. You didn't want to expose too much of the playbook. But do you just connect it on deep balls, and your receivers, it was just post, go, like it's just you had superior athletes on the outside, and your quarterback put well-timed throws on them, and they did what they're supposed to do, superior athletes. So check there. And I think the third box was the spacing on the defense, particularly in like the zone coverage, maybe like defensive line rotations in the middle. What's going to happen when you got to take Jackson, when you got to take Lyons out? How are those guys going to knock the rust off like the Jason Jenkins is? Like, how are they going to play? I'd say check there. I thought the defense had a really, in a game where it was easy to lose focus, especially after what happened against Alabama, a highly emotional game, and also a highly emotional moment for the team after the tragedy that happened to freshman player Ethan Pritchard. Very cool. They had the armbands for him. If you guys are listening, there's a GoFundMe right now for him. Check that out. Help him out. Like a really, really tragic situation. We've covered it at Knowles247.com. Like, please go and give whatever you can if you can. Very, very worthy cause. But that is a super emotional thing combined with the Alabama victory and Florida State. They came and focused on the defensive side of the ball. Every single thing that you wanted to see from them, you knew it was going to be a victory. And very rarely that I find myself as a fan when Florida State plays that lower level of competition, I always come out leaving unsatisfied a little bit, right? There's very rarely when it's like, okay, they did what they needed to do. Well, Florida State did what they needed to do and above, man. For a nooner at home after a massive victory in Alabama, everybody's talking about you positively. You got that top 15 ranking. So impressed with the coaching staff, the way that they could extract that effort out of these kids. Anything else you want to touch with on the offensive side of the ball before we move over to the defense, which I think needs to get its flowers too? Somebody said in the comments, the Mekhi Danzy reverse is like a free touchdown. It's like when everybody's like, call the touchdown play from the couch. Like, dude, that's the touchdown play. Yeah. I'm kind of excited the stuff that they could build off of that in the future. You know what I mean?
So you kind of already saw it a little bit, right? So that play is built off counter. Mm-hmm. So they don't run counter a lot. They'll run it a few times a game, but it's just, a lot of teams run counter. You pull usually a lineman and a tight end, or a guard and a tackle. So you pull two guys to one side of the line of scrimmage, and everybody's eyes go that way. So counter, counter, counter. You only run it a couple of times. And then that reverse off of counter, and it works because Mekhi Danzy is
beast,
the fastest guy on the field. You saw in that touchdown, that safety was taking a decent angle if the guy carrying the ball was human, and he just ran right by him. That's what track speed is different than football speed, and Mekhi Danzy has track speed. So, what do you do off of that? They got a touchdown. I think it was the touchdown to Boggs off of that action. So you ran counter action up front. Mekhi Danzy ran an end around action. They faked it, and there's a play action to the back of the end zone to Boggs. So they already kind of showed something off of that in this game. Everybody's kind of, they're showing them the playbook. They're showing them these plays and these plays. To be honest, everybody knows these plays. These are the same plays he ran at UCF. These are the same plays he ran towards the end of his career at Auburn. None of this is new. Anybody watching old film, anybody that's faced Gus Malzahn knows these plays are coming. But how do you stop this play? Because if you sell out to stop that end around, well, now your linebackers are too hesitant to be able to cover counter. And if you sell out to stop counter, then the end around's there. And if you sell out to stop the end around and you bring safeties up to stop counter, well, now I can play action. You got Duce Robinson running one-on-one with a corner out with no safety help. So there's just because you're showing them the plays doesn't mean that they're easy to stop, right? People have been running the wing T in its essence from the beginning of time. That doesn't make it easy to stop, right? I mean, no one was surprised when Paul Johnson showed up with Georgia Tech and ran the triple option.
Correct.
That didn't make it easy to stop, right?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
The offense has answers, and when you have athletes like this, those answers are hard to stop. When Duce Robinson can win one-on-ones that you've earned through your run game, how do you stop it?
You don't. You don't, especially not East Texas A&M, but there's a lot of teams that won't be able to. I'm with you, Kev. When you have the athleticism combined with that crisp execution, that professional approach to that offensive time, it doesn't show it whatever you want. You still got to defend it. And there's almost like an impending sense of dread where I know this is coming, but that kid who's got like the Florida State record for whatever that track of like that track length was, it's like, I can't do anything about it. So I'm with you. The execution and the athleticism to me, man, it's been a perfect marriage so far with this Gus Malzahn offense, these concepts and the dudes that they assembled to run everything. I guess the one thing that might be kind of like a lingering storyline, if you put any weight on this, is when we saw the first quarterback on the field that was not Tommy Castellanos was Kevin Sperry and not Brock Glenn.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Do you make anything of that? Do you think it's more of like, hey, Brock Glenn has got his reps in seasons before. We want to get Kevin out there to get him some real live reps. We want to use it as possibly a recruiting tool. They emphasized that after the Alabama win, how many true freshmen they played on the field like that. You got a true freshman quarterback taking snaps in the second quarter, dude. You don't see that. You don't see that. So what do you make of that, if anything?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, right? That's a really interesting question. I kind of had that question myself. Does that mean that Sperry's your number 2? I don't know, because they very quickly threw in Brock Glenn when Sperry made a mistake. And so that kind of felt like, yeah, they were just kind of breaking in Sperry a little bit. Maybe they wanted to get him a few reps while people were still in the stadium, a few reps with the ones. And he looked good. I mean, he looked athletic. He had a
4-5, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 22 yards rushing on the ground. Yeah.
He looked good. He looked solid. He made good decisions. He had good touch on the ball. He looked athletic. He looked athletic enough to be dangerous. You heard he was athletic, and I kind of saw his size on paper. I thought he'd be a little bit more of like a bruiser kind of guy, but no, I mean, he was pretty quick. He got downfield pretty fast, and they designed a couple easy throws off of him for him. That aforementioned fake end around touchdown, that was for him. And there's a play action jet where the jet then ran up the sideline, I think, and wide open to Chroma off of that.
Yeah. Easy, but still, like we've seen plenty of quarterbacks muff wide open throws. And I thought that the play to Boggs, while well designed, if you look, there was a little bit of like traffic. He put the ball in a good spot.
He looked good.
Like
he executed.
That.
Yeah. So I think they did build this a little bit. I think they built a few plays, a few things for Sperry to come in and get his confidence up a little bit. And I think he went out and he executed, and you got to be excited for that. He looks like a little bit of a steal.
Yeah, totally agreed. And like I said, I don't know if this means that if, God forbid, something happened in a game against ACC play, is he the guy that you bring in to spell Tommy if something happens to Tommy? I don't think so yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know either, dude. Either way, it's very promising to get him out there. That's what you did. This game was an opportunity to get experiences like that for Kevin Sperry, for Usman Chroma, for Javen Boggs, for all like the plethora of like freshman defensive linemen and the freshman defensive backs, Shamar Arnu, young guys like Charles Lester, like Tylen Coleman, all of these dudes that got to play this game. As long as you took care of what you needed to take care of, was a great opportunity. Executed to its full extent. I think the Kevin Sperry Brock Glenn thing was the actual like interesting. That was like the moment of the game. Moving on to the defense, what'd you see from Tony White's game plan? I mean, dude, they were the one thing that stuck out to me is when Darrell Jackson and Daniel Lyons are on the field at the same time. It is hell for the offensive line when they are not on the field, and even when one of them's off the field, I think you can see a visible difference. Now, Tony was being very fun playing with his lineups. I think the second defensive lineup of the game was the Desir twins at end and Deontay McCray in the middle. So they were clearly using this game as like a test experiment to kind of like put these different lineups together. One thing that I did see, everybody played really well. I can't think of a guy that really like stood out that didn't play great. Looks like Jabril Rawls didn't play. I thought KJ Sampson had a nice bounce back game. I thought that was good for his confidence, but everybody across the board played well. Dude, Earl Little almost had a pick. Then he had a pick, looked like a beast. Right? That kid is rock solid. Jerry Wilson had a pick, man. Great job jumping the route. I thought that was great. And the linebackers, everybody played great, dude. It's tough for me to single out who stood out when everybody was so competent and the defense was so well coordinated? What stood out to you on that side of the ball? Like I said, they pitched a shutout for like 90% of the game until the cowardly Lions kicked a field goal at the very Florida versus like Oregon State. That was the bowl game, right? Very lame stuff, but whatever, man. You preserved your shutout. Very impressive.
I think, the defense, what's most impressive is just how quickly they went from being a really apprehensive group last year. It seemed like safeties were slow to trigger, linebackers were confused, teams knew that they could just isolate linebackers one-on-one in space. And so you saw these guys kind of guessing the whole time, to like the radical transformation of like Blake Nicholson. He's got strengths, but he's also got weaknesses as a player, but we're going to put him in a position for his strength. There's one play in particular where East Texas A&M was running a tunnel screen and it wasn't completed, but if it was completed, Blake Nicholson was there. He triggered on it. He got through a blocker. He was there. And you're like, okay, his athleticism standing out, right? They put him in a position to be successful. He's triggering fast. I mean, Earl Little Jr. is just, we doubted him, right? We doubted him last year. We were excited about him coming in.
For good reason, dude. It was tough at the beginning of the year, right? But he was, I think he might have been playing out of position. I don't know what sort of voodoo magic they're working on this kid, but dude, he looks like he's playing like an All-American safety, which is crazy.
Yeah, honestly, he's probably one of the best defensive players I've seen play college football this year, period.
No argument from me. I watched a lot of football last weekend, and I don't want the red rum coming to me, dude. And that, I'm biased, but man, it just looks different when he plays. And like the interception was impressive, but what was impressive to me is when he missed the first interception, how pissed off he was, dude. He's locked in. They love playing for Tony White.
I was slightly worried that like, okay, he's up for the Alabama game. That's where he originally committed. Are you going to see this intensity for the rest of the season? And it seems like he's bought in. He's sold out. This is his year. This is his defense. And you love to see a leader kind of take the reins. And it seems like he has. It seems like this is his defense. He plays right in the middle of the field. If someone's going to break through a gap, he's going to be there. No one's going to get more than 4 yards. And you got to say hats off to him, because I mean, he's so far, he has been the heart of why this defense has been so successful.
I agree. He's the Punisher. Like you know that whatever you're on the offensive side of the ball, zero is going to beat you at some point, and it's going to suck and it's going to hurt really bad. The one thing that really stood out with Tony White to me, and once they played so many guys, so many freshmen, it was awesome. Amari Williams got to catch a touchdown on offense and get half a sack on defense. Just a nuts performance. But the thing that I love about Tony White, and I think you hit it out at Kev, and I'm going to hit you with a reference that you're going to be like, what? Okay. Tony White is so good at accentuating the strengths of the athletes on his team. He's like Paul Heyman from the ECW days, right? When he's got a guy that can do one thing great, he's going to put them in a position. I know you're shaking your head. This is not landing for you. It's going to land for about 23 people that are listening. He's Paul Heyman from ECW. This guy does this good. I'm going to let him do this good over and over and over again. And then it's like a positive feedback loop. They get confidence, and some of the other stuff they're not so great at, they've got confidence to get better at that. And he's got a whole team of it, man. It's great. He still throws a lot of different looks at you. I don't think that he emptied his bag. They did not empty their bag. They just did it with base looks and base fronts, and there wasn't a whole bunch of stuff. I think he brought a little bit of heat with the second and third team after ETAM kicked that field goal. He thought he brought a little bit of heat, like while they were trying to score the touchdown to keep him out of the end zone. I like that. That's fiery. I'm a big fan, but dude, I'm impressed with the players, but to get that level of focus, buy-in, and competency after everything that Florida State went through last week, both positive and crushingly negative, it's credit to all of them. Credit to the head man for putting these guys together. Credit to the assistants. Credit to the position coaches, man. A wonderful, wonderful, wonderful just response from this team after a very emotional week. I didn't expect to be this satisfied after. I'm never this satisfied after one of these type of games, right? When we've done a ton of instant reactions with you guys. And it seems that the common theme is after they beat the crap out of like a lowly opponent, it's always about what they didn't do. And I am not feeling like that. And that is very rare, not only in the Norvell era, but in the Fisher era, in the Bowden era. When you play these little teams, it's always about the what they didn't do. And I'm not focused on that, man. Like, this was a really, really, really good performance against a not great team, but man, you did what you need to do and more. And it's going to pay dividends for you in the future, all of these at-bats that you got for these dudes. Do you agree, or am I making a little bit too much of it?
No, I mean, I think what's telling is you could have turned that game on in the fourth quarter and saw guys triggering and coming downhill as aggressively then as they were in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And the completely different set of guys. So you've got your third strings, your walk-ons triggering, playing aggressively, being there. And like, that's an impressive place to be. That's an impressive turnaround from where this defense was last year. The defense was not the worst part of the team last year, let's be straight. But the kind of freedom it seems like these players are playing with, the buy-in that they've been able to generate in one game, in one offseason, to the point where, man, these guys are playing fast. These guys are playing hard. They're playing aggressive. And yes, I mean, I don't know if AB's going to agree with this because it seemed like we didn't necessarily agree with it with the Alabama breakdown. But like, when your linebackers are triggering hard in the run game, when you're saying we are not going to let you run the ball easily, the natural consequence of that is that intermediate zone is going to be a little bit easier to pass into. And even in this game, you saw a few times when they were able to get those throws 15, 20 yards downfield in between that second level defense, the linebackers and the safeties. That's going to be something that's always there. It's going to be something that you have to watch for. A team that can consistently hit that 10 to 15 yard or 15 to 20 yard throw underneath the safeties behind the linebackers off play action or something, that's going to be a team that can potentially give you some trouble. So as the season goes on, you might see, this defense won't be this elite against everybody, right?
Sure, of course.
But you're stopping the run. You're making things hard. You're going to challenge the offense to be consistent. You're going to challenge them to make, that's not an easy throw to consistently make and beat you with. And so you like that they're bringing the play to the offense. You like that they're being aggressive. You like that. It's just a fun defense to watch, right? I said it with the Jeremiah Wilson pick. That was the first time we've seen cover 2 out of this team in probably years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fuller played cover 4. He played match quarters, and that's it. That's what he played, match quarters, which
all day
you can get away with and you can do well. But like, it was fun seeing, hey, we're gonna run cover 2, which is essentially like a trap coverage where, it might look like cover 4, but then that corner is going to come down hard because he's got safety help. But then later in the game, you ran cover 2 and they completed a nice corner route off you 15, 20 yards downfield. You say, well, hats off to you. We got a pick from you last time we ran this coverage. Now you get 15, 20 yards. That's football, and we're going to keep playing.
Right. It's an actual mission takeaway. When was the last time Florida State had multiple turnovers from the defensive backs in a game?
Dude, I don't know.
Dude. Get the statisticians on that. It is nice, dude. They are attacking. They are bringing the fight to the offense, and they're doing a whole bunch of different stuff, and they use this opportunity to do a little bit of different stuff with the coverages and be attacking still. And it's good because when you let your foot off the gas, that type of mentality can be a little bit pervasive, and you don't want it to be. Treat East Texas A&M like a team that you desperately need to annihilate, right? Because you want to have an edgy, attacking, physical attitude, the culture shift. You have to keep on, especially what happened last year. It looks like the culture has shifted, but we've seen how quick it can take a turn. It needs to be reinforced. It needs to be reinforced. It needs to be reinforced, and it totally was. One thing that I do want to hit on the other side of the ball just real quick that I thought was encouraging was, you mentioned it, Kev, with the defense. You could have turned that game on in the first quarter or the fourth quarter, and no matter what the players were on the field, you were getting elite effort from the defensive unit. I thought no matter what quarter you turned on, the first or the fourth, I thought you were getting like really good push from the offensive line, which was so encouraging because you had, from a very early time on, you had Lucas Simmons, Andre Otto, Sandman Thompson, Jaden Todd was in there. You had Jacob Rizzi. You had Jonathan Daniels. Like, you had all these guys that we're pretty terrified if something happens to those first 5 offensive linemen, right? But you got to give them reps, play together, and I thought that they looked pretty good, which is nice to see out of a prospect like a Lucas Simmons, an elite tackle prospect. We weren't really sure physically how he looked. I thought physically all of the second team offensive linemen looked good, and I thought that that was a really nice confidence booster to get that level of push where they're bulldozing people for a kid like Zay Parks, who is just walking through holes. Samuel Singleton is knifing up the defense like a monster from a slasher movie, just over and over and over again, prison shanking them. I could go on for, I didn't expect to go half an hour on a 70-73 beatdown of some like possibly fake directional Texas school, but here we are, so encouraged. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we get out of here and get back to our families?
No, I think I think the team spoke for us. I think we didn't even have to show up here and talk about them. You can just watch that game on replay and hear the names of the announcers as they call out different touchdowns. But no, this was a great game, a great bounce back. This is what usually is a letdown game for people, right? You win a big game against Alabama. Now you're playing some directional school from Texas. Why would I show up? We're going to win this game anyways. But they came out, they executed, everything was clean. You know, the offense took a second, but then, they scored a touchdown on every drive except for one. Like, they figured it out. You know, they have so many tools, so many athletes at their disposal, and they're playing really sharp football. And so you gotta love what you saw. This is exactly what you need them to be doing. And, you know, you start stringing together performances like this, and you start putting the rest of college football on notice, and you start getting reps for those younger guys. And all of a sudden, the concern we had going into the season of, is there depth on this team? Well, all of a sudden, you've got a second, a third string defense that continue to shut out. You got a second or third string offense that continued to score a touchdown every drive against an opponent that you should beat. But, you know, this isn't a given. Georgia right now isn't destroying Austin Peay. You know, like, sometimes teams struggle against this, and the fact that you saw so much sharpness out of your second and third string is encouraging, that they could come out and execute when they're needed to, which is a really encouraging sign going forward.
It's a dangerous team, these Florida State Seminoles, and the most dangerous thing about them right now, I can't believe I'm saying this after last year, but the most dangerous thing about this team right now, maybe their mindset, dude.
Yeah,
killers,
it's crazy.
Killers, and I love it, and I love you. Bask in the rest of this college football Saturday. You've earned the day off. We'll get you with some good content over to bye week, but we love you. And 77 beautiful American football points on this glorious Saturday, man. Bask in it. We love you. And as always, keep chopping. Hit up Knowles 24/7 for all your coverage.